Hello, I'm Speedy Biscuit, and this is my GDQ submission for Descent Maximum. Um, I was doing a little bit of recording to get some footage, and happened to get a new world record while I was doing so. So this is the current record that you're about to watch. We'll go ahead and just launch right into it. Descent Maximum, if you're familiar, I ran a Descent 2 a few years back ago in the GDQ. And Descent Maximum is actually the PlayStation 1 port of Descent 2. They directly ported Descent 1 to PlayStation, kind of realized that the huge sprawling levels were not really a good fit for the PlayStation's limited controls, so when they ported Descent 2 to PlayStation, they decided to redesign all the levels to make them a lot smaller, a lot more compact. It makes for a much quicker, much denser run. So there's going to be a lot of movement here. You'll note that I am very rarely moving in a straight line. That's because, like most old-school first-person shooters, this game has what is commonly known among first-person shooters, speedrunners, as strafe running, where basically the programmers set in movement speed caps, but didn't apply it universally. It's just for a max speed if you're pressing forward, a max speed if you're pressing sideways, max speed if you're pressing up. Press all of them at the same time, then you get a combined movement that's much faster than just holding in one of them and facing forward, for instance. So, yeah, it's what we call tricording in the Descent community, and you're going to be seeing a lot of that. So this level here introduces these melee enemies, the Diamond Claws. They're a little bit of a pain in the butt. They are, unlike most other enemies, you can't really shoot them to move them. They're pretty resistant to knockback, and they can really lock you in place and do a lot of damage to you. And it's made even worse by the fact that if you hit them with energy weapons, they have a random chance at initiating a plasma counterattack, which can deal a lot of damage itself. So once they grab onto you, you're kind of in a potential RNG-based lose-lose situation where no matter what you do, you're going to take in lots of damage and or losing lots of time. So we're coming up on the first boss level here. This level introduces the Lugards, these green round enemies that you just saw me pass from them. They're one of the more dangerous enemy types in the game because they shoot homing missiles, which are obviously a little tougher to dodge. They can also drop homing missiles, which are valuable for us. Homing missiles will lock on to nearby enemies. Unfortunately, they won't lock onto bosses or reactors, but they do a little bit more damage than the basic concussion missiles, so they are valuable to have for bursting down damage. And while they won't lock onto bosses, as long as you are close enough to them, they will still fly into them and deal damage normally. So, coming up on the first boss here, took a little bit of damage, so I'm going to make sure to grab this cloak and play this fight a little carefully. There's this teleporting right guy in the middle. He's the boss. Does that plasma counterattack that the Diamond Claws also do, and has shoots some homing flash missiles. You saw the effects of flash missiles a little while ago. They kind of cause the screen to flash white and reduce visibility, but muscle memory thankfully keeps that from being too burst of impact, but it can get really messy if you start crashing into enemies. But yeah, using the cloaking device makes the fight a lot easier because the homing missiles and the homing plasma attack can't lock on. So as long as you do some smart circle strafing to keep him from getting a lead on you, you can take the boss down pretty easily. So I take a little time there to kill one of those new Foxbots to get a spread fire cannon. Spread fire cannon is a weapon you ideally won't have to use, but this level also introduces the Thief Bot, which can, if it makes contact with you, steal some random items, and it actually highly prioritizes stealing the quad laser upgrade that we're currently using, and the quad lasers are important for a number of reasons. For one, for right now, quad lasers are the best source of damage we have. For another, there are some bugs associated with it that'll allow for some skips later on. More on that later. So yeah, if the Thief Bot steals the quad lasers, then we have the Spread Fire Cannon as backup, because the Spread Fire Cannon is better DPS than just the normal dual lasers. So yeah, if that theft happens, which usually happens at the end of this level, we will see the Spread Fire Cannon usage. So yeah, this is the way the game is basically structured is it's divided into 6 worlds at 4 levels. So we're on the second world right now, Quartzon, which is the water-based level. You'll see some water on the ground at times. Not too many special properties to it. It's basically just a wall that will absorb splash damage from weapons that hit it, and also cause your ship to kind of shake a bit if you fly into it. But nothing too special to note. It's just a little bit of a physics quirk that can come up sometimes. So, coming up on the second Quartzon reactor here, this is where the Thiefbot tends to go for a steal as I'm backing up from the reactor. And the Thiefbot does get a steal on me, but thankfully only takes 1 homing missile, which is not a huge deal. That's just like a tiny little bit of burst damage that maybe saves me a quarter of a second in the reactor fight or something. So, glad to have avoided the worst of having my quad lasers stolen. So, going to be using quad lasers here. If we lose the quad lasers, we swap to that spread fire cannon I was talking about earlier. Going to be picking up an ammo rack here, which increases the capacity for secondary weapons and Vulcan ammo. Haven't used any Vulcan ammo yet. We will be coming up shortly, but Vulcan ammo is basically the physical ammunition for non-energy based primary weapons. So the Vulcan cannon and the Gauss cannon. Haven't used either one of those. Getting a little damage boost on the force field back there behind the key. Force fields deal a little damage to you and bounce you back when you hit them. Kind of use that to get a little bit of a burst of movement in that direction. So coming up on the reactor here, this level also introduces these annoying like mine-laying fish bots that move extremely fast and throw proximity mines everywhere. It actually makes this level pretty dangerous because those proximity mines hurt and they can get thrown into you like that one right there pretty quickly. So, but overall, not a bad level, making it through with a little bit of a shield cushion. And thankfully, between levels, if you are below 100 shield, you will recharge to 100 at the start of the next level. And if you're above 100 shield or energy, you get to keep it for the start of the next level. So coming up on the boss level here, going to be continuing to use the quad lasers here. We've been also picking up little incremental damage upgrades, which is why you've been seeing the laser colors change. We're at level 4 right now, which is the highest level you can get with the basic laser upgrades. But we will pick up a super laser upgrade right here, which boosts us up to level 5. Gives us a little bit more damage still. And if we lost the quad lasers before, we'd pick them up right there on the left to replace them. So there are plenty of available places to get items back if you lose them. The Thiefbot can be killed, but in the speedrun context, it just takes way too long to do. So we get the quad lasers here, and right here, the Thiefbot sneaks in and steals my quads. So we're just going to go ahead and grab those backup quads that I just talked about. Losing a few seconds, just bad luck, but it is what it is. And we're coming up on the boss. We got a cloaking device active, which makes the fight a lot easier. I'm going to sit in this energy station a little bit because my energy is running low. Energy does get consumed when firing energy-based primary weapons like these quad lasers, and also when the afterburner recharges. Didn't really talk much about the afterburner. I picked that up towards the end of the first level in the water world, and it basically has a charge bank from 0 to 100 that you can consume at any time to get a little bit of extra forward movement speed. But when it goes to recharge it, it consumes some energy. So we'll be using that alongside the previously mentioned movement techniques to get maximum speed whenever possible. So right back there a little bit ago, you just saw the quad lasers doing the used for the glitch I was talking about for sequence breaking. The 2 additional projectiles spawned by the quad laser upgrade actually spawn slightly in front of your ship. And if there's a door with a switch behind it that needs to be shot, if you get just the right angle, you can actually get those shots to spawn on the other side of the door and hit the switch. It only works for situations where there is a switch immediately on the other side of the door, because the angle you have to take makes it pretty much impossible for it to really hit anything else. But we use it at the start of this level to save a few seconds. Normally you're supposed to move forward and fly over a trigger to open the secret door to hit the switch and then reach the blue key. But with the quad laser glitch, we can just do it right away without having to fly the trigger, so saves a little bit of time here. This reactor shows itself when you reach the end of the hallway, so I switched to quad lasers so that I can shoot at while I'm backing up towards the exit. Unfortunately, I come up a little damage short, so I have to switch to Gauss and just snipe it. Yeah, we pick up the Gauss cannon at the start of this level. It's going to be a weapon we use a lot for the run. It uses Vulcan ammo, which means it's not cutting into energy reserves for afterburning. It's a lot of damage. It's essentially hit scan. It's a very, very, very fast-moving invisible projectile, which also makes it really good for opening doors in advance. There is a little bit of a period as doors open where you can't fly through it, but with a long-distance Gauss shot, you can make sure the door is open before you actually have to fly through it. If you crash into a halfway open door before you can pass through it, you lose a lot of momentum, and it can cost a lot of time. It's only like a little tiny sub-second amount, but as in every speedrun, those little half-second time losses do add up. So Thiefbot again steals my quad lasers. Thankfully, we don't really have a need for them right now. We're in pretty good shape, and we don't need to use quad lasers for a while now. Gauss cannon is our main DPS, and we don't have any door skips, any shot clips we need to do. So we're fine to just keep using the Gauss cannon. It's coming up on this reactor. It's pretty simple. Just fly straight through and unload, and we'll be coming up on the third level in the lava world, Grimspark. It is worth commenting that the lava introduced in this world is a little bit of a stage hazard. You do have to make sure you minimize touching it, because it does deal damage to you, and any weapons that hit it will deal splash damage, so you have to watch that enemy fire doesn't splash lava into you. So, fairly recent discovery here. There's this whole little secret back alley that has a ton of power-ups and stuff. Normally you have to do a pretty involved sequence of secrets to reach it, but if you go really fast right at the start, the Thiefbot actually opens the locked door leading into one part of it right at the start of the level, and as long as you get there quickly enough, you can just use that to go straight to the end of the level and skip collecting any of the other keys. There's an E-bandit in the exit shaft for that level. It's a little annoying. Sometimes it blocks your exit. Sometimes it moves forward just enough to keep you from actually triggering the end of the level. Saw a little bit of that going on. So we're on the boss level for Grimspark. This level is very, very based on switches. There's a lot of switches you have to hit to lower barriers to get access to keys. So you're going to be seeing a lot of just going back and forth, shooting some switches, and going back and grabbing keys. The Gauss cannon, again, is very good for shooting switches because the shots are very accurate and travel very quickly. And so this switch gave me a little bit of trouble to hit. Save a little bit of effort there. But coming up on the boss is very, very dangerous. Shoots mega missiles and phoenix cannons. The mega missiles have a huge blast radius and do a ton of damage. So we're actually going to see the first use of the invulnerability power-up. There's one coming at the bottom. Grab the cloak first to make sure that we can get there safely, and then grab the invulnerability and just wail into him. Saw me pumping back and forth a little bit at the start of that fight. What I'm doing there is I'm dropping proximity mines as I move forward to try and get the momentum to carry the proximity mines into him to deal a little bit of extra damage. And with that, we are at the halfway point. We're on level 13, the start of the third world, Climb Cross Spiral. It's the ice world. There are no ice physics, though, because we're flying around, so thankfully no more slipping and sliding, at least no more than usual. Most importantly, though, it introduces the Spindle Bots, which we just killed one of, and got the Helix Cannon. Helix Cannon is the strongest weapon in the game in terms of pure DPS. Kind of a shotgun-style weapon where it's going to do a ton of damage up close. It does burn through your energy reserves extremely quickly, though, so you do have to be careful with it. Some pretty bad luck there. Got pushed around by a lot of Diamond Claws, lost a lot of time in that key room, but thankfully got a cloaking device drop. The cloaked Diamond Claws can sometimes drop cloaks, sometimes they don't. It's just random. We got lucky and got the cloaking device, which means reaching the reactor and finishing the level off is a lot easier. It's worth commenting the cloaking devices. The way they work is enemies will be unable to see you or shoot at you, but if you perform an action like afterburning, if you shoot, if you bump into something, they will for a brief moment know where you are and shoot at you based on that last known position. So it's not completely, you know, impervious stealth, but it does make things a lot easier, a lot safer. You will be seeing cloaking devices used quite a bit throughout the run whenever they're available and convenient. So coming up on the red key here, this level's reactor room can be a little spooky, and again, you know, those cloaking devices. There's a cloaking device in the reactor room to make the escape a little bit easier. I will be going for that. Technically, you can skip it to save a little bit of time if you have enough shield and can survive additional damage taking. But yeah, just gonna play it safe. It's right up against the wall that I back up against here. Just makes for a little bit of an easier escape. Yeah, without that cloaking device, getting hung up on that diamond claw would have almost certainly been death, as I had the one drone in the distance shooting Vulcan at me. So we grab the Mercury Missiles here. Mercury Missiles are extremely powerful. They're basically like the basic concussion missiles, except all of their stats are boosted. Concussion missiles, just, you know, missiles that fly straight forward. They hit something, they do some explosive splash damage. Mercury Missiles move much, much faster and deal much, much more damage. So you'll see them used against some boss fights. Gonna be grabbing a new accessory here as well, the energy to shield converter, which allows me to convert excess energy above 100 to shields at a 2 to 1 ratio, 2 energy points to 1 shield point. It's helpful, a little bit of safety, helps make up for some levels kind of requiring you to tank a lot of damage. And yeah, we got the reactor in this level is kind of hidden behind a fake wall, so you just kind of shoot into the wall, and that's it for it. So, coming up on the fourth boss, this level's a little bit unique. We're going to have to shoot a bunch of switches to lower some force fields and unlock some doors. But this boss fight is actually really scary. You could actually fight it through that force field right away if you want to, but the limited movement space and the limited ability to actually throw shots in because of the force field makes it so that it's actually quite a bit slower to do it that way. So we're going to just fly all the way up here, shoot a few switches on the way, and we're going to come in here and grab the cloaking device in the wall here. I took a lot of damage on the way to it, so I'm going to go for a little bit of safety here, grab the extra shield in this room here, and then start the fight on this on the Frost Spiral boss. He does have the flash effect on his weapons, which can make it a little hard to tell what's going on. A lot of splash damage as well being thrown out, which makes it really hard to avoid. So probably the most dangerous boss fight in the game. But the cloaking device does make it a lot more manageable. Get a little hung up on a cloak diamond claw on the way out, but that's it for Frost Spiral. And we move on to Glorious Prime, kind of in the stretch of the end game here. We start with this level. It's kind of a lot of corkscrewing passages. It's really hard to move optimally through in here because, elaborating a bit more on tricording, something else to note about this game's movement is that there is no free mouse look. You have a very hard limit to your rotation speed. So you really have to try and plan out movements a little bit ahead of time. Know when and where you need to rotate to try and maintain that optimal line without crashing into enemies, because crashing into enemies just absolutely kills your momentum. So yeah, it's fairly easy to get the optimal tricord line when it's straight hallways, but when it's these twisting corkscrew hallways, it's actually really, really tough to optimize. My movement on this level is actually very far from optimal. It's extremely tough to get down, get the best line. I got a little scared at the end of that one, leaving the red door, big pile up of enemies that kind of locked me in place and almost got me killed, but thankfully not too much trouble. So this level is where we start to see keys being held by enemies, and unfortunately they're held by those bomb-laying little fish bots that appeared back in the water world. They move extremely fast and they're really hard to track down. We actually don't need to get the blue key, because the blue key, you can do the quad laser glitch to just shoot through that door, but the yellow key is not as simple. And unfortunately, I got really bad luck there. Not only does the yellow key bot get away from me, but it runs past me and behind me rather than forward towards the yellow door. So I had to double back to go get it, and it cost a lot of time. Thankfully, the red key bot is just a big, one of those big Phoenix Cannon bots that doesn't really move around. It just has a pretty normal fighting enemy AI, and with very minimal movement. So the red key is always easy to get here. And we're coming up on the reactor here. Just picked up the Phoenix Cannon, which I got from the enemy I killed back there. You're not going to see that used at all. It shoots a bunch of it shoots pretty fast-moving, bouncing shots, which can damage yourself, so they're really dangerous to use. So you're not going to see that used here. And we're coming up on the second to last level in Dolores Prime. This one's a little bit of a maze that kind of gradually opens up as you go through it. So there's a lot of narrow hallways at first, but yeah, as you can see, like as you pick up the keys and progress, big chunks of walls start opening up and making it into a big, more big open arena sort of level. We also get a lot of power-ups here. Big old pile of Vulcan ammo I passed on the way into that into the blue key door there. Make sure I have enough ammo for this cannon for the rest of the run. And as we get the yellow key and come here, we go. Got to shoot a couple switches. This one's really far off and kind of hard to hit, but there it is. Grab the red key up here and head straight for the exit. Health gets really low, so I get a little spooked here because I know this level also has an enemy hiding in the exit shaft, so I play a little careful and make sure I shoot him back if I need to. And with that, we're on to the boss level. This one is kind of like the one 2 levels ago. Very corkscrewing passageways and key bots all the way through. Thankfully, every key door is just a switch immediately behind it. So any key bots that we don't manage to kill, we don't really need to bother chasing down because we can just use the quad laser clipping to shoot the switch behind and lower the force field that way. It is a little faster if you can get the keys without as long as you don't have to go chasing the bot down, as it means you don't have to go into the hallway to get up against the door. And I do get the red key there, so you can see here I save a little bit of time just by staying in the main hallway and shooting the switch from there. Thief bot there showing up and stealing my headlight. Thankfully, we really do not care about the headlight at all. It's no big deal. Grab another invuln here for this boss. Gonna be pretty important because this boss can be a little scary. This boss is immune to missile damage, so just gonna be using the Helix Cannon. So you need to be careful about your energy usage, your afterburner usage up to this point in the level, because you need to make sure you have enough energy to kill him. If you get there and you're short on energy, you're going to have to leave and go find an energy station to recharge before you can finish him off, and that costs a ton of time. Grab a cloak on the way out for a little bit of an easier exit. It's a little farther back, but there it is, and we approach the final world of the run. Puma Sphere in the Omega system. Theming to this one is basically green. There's a lot of green. That doesn't just extend to the walls and the scenery. There are a lot of enemies that are green and also shoot green weapons. We'll be seeing the most dangerous type of green weaponry in a couple of levels here from the boar's heads. They can shoot smart missiles, which, if those hit you directly, you're pretty much as good as dead. And even if they don't hit you directly, they're still dangerous because they spawn on detonation a bunch of the homing plasma orbs that we've seen from the Diamond Claws and from a lot of the bosses so far. So even after you dodge the missile itself, you have to make sure to stay on your toes and avoid the fallout afterwards. We've also got spiders everywhere. Spiders shoot barrages of concussion missiles, a lot of splash damage from those, so they're pretty dangerous. And they can also spawn what are called spawn on death, little green hornets that are really hard to hit, really evasive, and just shoot little lasers. They don't do a ton of damage, but they're really annoying to get away. So, grabbing a cloaking device, we got a cloaking device from the Cloaked Diamond Claw earlier to make this whole ending run a little bit easier. Another Cloaked Diamond Claw, unfortunately, blocking me on the way out, but able to reach the exit without too much trouble on this one. And we come on to the second level in the final world, Alien Nation. This one's got, this is coming up here, this blue key. You could actually technically skip this blue key because, yeah, the key is just used to hide a switch immediately on their side. Which I kind of failed to hit a little bit there. So you could quad laser clip, but flying up to the door is much, much slower than just grabbing the key, which is really conveniently located. Grab a cloak on the way out from that room as well, just to make this next stretch quite a bit easier. Got a keybot here. The yellow key is held by a Lugard, the homing missile bots, but homing missiles, of course, can't lock onto you when cloaked, so very non-threatening encounter there. And yeah, we head on to the red key. This is the dangerous part of this level. A lot of proximity mines in, already pre-planted. I run into one there, and a lot of enemies gathered up in this hallway. And you kind of go in this little hole in the wall to get the red key. And Diamond Claws here can really just dogpile you and keep you from getting back out of it. But thankfully, I'm able to squeeze out. Granted, at the cost of quite a bit of shields, so I'm pretty low on shields at this point, and things are looking a little scary. So. I do play this reactor room pretty cautiously. Grab an Earthshaker missile that'll be used in the final boss fight. And I do unfortunately run out of energy here, so I do have to switch to Gauss for the last finish, and our afterburner banks aren't going to refill here. Unfortunately, yeah, it seems like a little bit of an oversight. The afterburner banks do not restore between levels, so you're going to see that that red AB gauge at the bottom left starts empty here and immediately starts draining some energy, which is unfortunate. And because, yeah, not only do we lose some starting energy, but we have to wait a little bit before we can start using that one. So this is the second to last level, and it's the most dangerous level in the run because of this room right here. You get stuck in this little cage, and there are spiders on either side throwing a ton of missiles at you. And you gotta shoot some switches, get out to the side to open the locked door to leave. Honestly, this is one of the first and only runs I've ever had that actually survived that run without dying. That room, it's very common to take a death there. When you die, you just respawn at the start of the level with no equipment, but you can get back to where you died and reclaim all your equipment. If you die during self-destruct sequence, though, you start the next level with no equipment immediately. While it seems like it might be a way to end a level more quickly without having to reach the exit, just losing all the equipment is too much for it to be worth it, considering that most trips to the exit door are not that far out. Really dicey exit room, those Boris heads with the smart missiles I was talking about earlier, bringing me down really low, down to single-digit shields, but barely managed to clutch it out and reach the exit. So we got one last quad laser clip here to grab the yellow key and skip the need to go find the blue one. As we approach the final boss here. A lot of those mine-laying fish around here, these ones lay smart mines, which you have to be really careful about, because smart mines shoot a bunch of homing energy pulses when they detonate. And if you eat the full brunt of one of those, it's enough damage to pretty much single-handedly take you out, so you gotta be really careful about those golden proximity mines. So you'll note that the exit is down, all the way down here by the red key. It's very, very far from the exit. So while I was just talking about how there's no death warping here to just end a level immediately during the self-destruct, we are going to, amusingly enough, see that strat employed on the very last level of the game, because the exit is just so far away. Grab an invul here. This final boss is just way too dangerous. It's pretty much impossible to avoid taking damage, so unfortunately got to take an invul to go and fight with him. The final boss is special in that, unlike other bosses which have type weaknesses or immunities, his weakness is a positional one. You have to shoot him in the back. So you kind of have to rotate around him as he carries to shoot him from behind. Now it's just a matter of waiting for the invulnerability timeout. We can't reach the exit before it does, and then we just shoot a mega missile into the wall to destroy our ship, and there we go. That's the end of the run. Kind of an anticlimactic end, but That is a 29:05, which beat the old record by I think about 15 seconds. So still plenty of time to save with some better luck and some better movement in a couple in a couple spots. But for now, it's world record, and it's a pretty strong run, despite some of the unfortunate bits of RNG. This run will have a 35-minute estimate, just in case of some deaths. Deaths can waste a lot of time, especially if they happen during that escape sequence. I will be preparing some safety saves ahead of time in case an absolutely catastrophic death occurs where I'm like forced to start a new level with like no equipment, and I just like don't have the damage and the resources to be able to get through the level efficiently at all. I can load up some safety saves to continue the run as if it hadn't happened. I can also drop quick saves during the run to try and mitigate the need to revert to pre-made saves. But yeah, 35-minute estimate should cover the run you just saw, along with the possibility of any deaths or major time losses to bad luck or some execution errors. Anyway, I hope you consider it. This is a pretty intense run, very action-packed, very densely packed. There's just always something going on, whether it's intense movement or some difficult combat or maneuvering around enemies. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Sure to be an intense watch, and I hope you will consider it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.